Welcome to a world without net neutrality. Oh, it just dawned on me. They actually wrote that in the article. Either I didn't notice that or it was on a very subconscious thing. But anyway, hey everyone, this is Kevin the Entrepreneur. Welcome to my vlog/media channel. Now then, let's talk a little bit about HBO Max. Now, there were several things that I was considering talking about. I was considering talking about doing like a full-length review of it, but if you watched my little first impressions of it, you'll see there's honestly not much to say about it. I mean, the best thing I could say is it's there. It's a streaming service. Of course, it's as nice as you probably expect it to be, but it's not changing the game or anything like that. And basically, it's a bunch of archive content. That's what it is. So I kind of figured I'd do that. Then I figured I'd talk about, like, well, what about the performance? And it really, that was a little bit more of a complicated topic. It really didn't do as well as people thought it would, but then it might have also not done as well because basically anyone who was already subscribing to HBO now automatically got turned into an HBO Max subscription. So even though it only added some reported like 90,000 subscribers on day one, the millions of people who were doing HBO Now got an automatic upgrade. So, you know, it's kind of hard to have like a big out of the gate splash when a lot of your subscribers have technically been subscribing to you for years on end. However, then I saw this story, and this is definitely a little bit of a warning about what is going on with the future of streaming. Because here's the thing, as we stream more and more, there is something that people are not talking about: data caps. Data caps are a thing. Now, a lot of data caps have been excused during the pandemic. This is true. But the more and more you stream, the more data you use. And then you have to start making compromises like, do I want to stream that movie in 4K knowing it will take this much of a data cap? Do I want to stream on Google Stadia because it eats up this much and I might have to watch a season less of a show? All that jazz. But one thing I had not thought about was that HBO Max is the first streaming service that I can think of that is actually being owned by an internet provider, in this case AT&T. Now, that's going to change very soon because Peacock is owned by NBC Universal, which is owned by Comcast, I believe. So, but here's what's going to be interesting once this comes in, because look, vertical integration is a real thing and it's also a problem. I do not mind if companies are successful, but I think the vertical integration, especially with the mergers, is getting way out of hand. The consolidation is just insane. It's resulting in less options for the consumer, and in some cases like this one, it might actually result in, how should I put this, bullying to get people to use your service. So, you've been looking at that headline, and you probably know where I'm going with this, because AT&T has confirmed that if you are watching stuff on HBO Max, you won't hit your data caps. But if you use Netflix and Disney Plus, you will. So let's look at this. According to an AT&T executive familiar with the matter, HBO Max is using AT&T's sponsored data system, which technically allows any company to pay to excuse its services from data caps. But since AT&T owns HBO Max, it's just paying itself. The data fee shows up on the HBO Max books as an expense and on the AT&T mobility books as revenue. For AT&T as a whole, it zeroes out. Compare that to a competitor like Netflix, which could theoretically pay AT&T for sponsored data, but it would be pure cost. So what this means is that basically AT&T has this sponsored data system where it's like, hey, if you have a service and you have these customers and people use it, but it's going to eat up a lot of data. So what are we going to do? Well, here's what you can do. You can pay us a fee and we will excuse you. Your stuff will not count towards the data caps. Customers will definitely be a lot happier, by the way, if that happens. But it's an expense that most companies don't want to pay, and I assume the fee is huge. Well, HBO Max is, of course, paying the data fee. But again, AT&T owns HBO Max, so they are paying themselves to excuse themselves from this fee, and that gives them an unfair advantage. Now, this has been discussed in other industries where, for example, there is ongoing litigation against Apple from Spotify because Apple has the App Store and the phone and the operating system. Basically, that's a complete monopoly right there. And so, yes, they allow multiple music services on the iOS store. However, Apple has their own music service, and they don't pay the 30% fee. But Spotify and Napster, all those companies, and Amazon, they have to pay a 30% fee, so they either have to charge the $10 to stay on an even playing field with Apple and lose money, or they have to charge more, which of course would direct people to the cheaper option, which is Apple Music. So what this is going to do is if people have AT&T as their internet provider, and it becomes knowledge that, hey, you know, when we watch on Netflix and Disney Plus, it eats into our data caps, and that's still a problem for a lot of people. But if we subscribe to HBO Max, this does not count. Well, first of all, it's going to do two things. First of all, it means that people are obviously going to sign up for HBO Max if they are an AT&T consumer because, duh, why wouldn't they? It's not counting against their caps. What's more, they might actually choose to watch HBO Max a little bit more than other services with that knowledge in mind. They might be a little bit more careful about what they watch on the other services. So, yeah, so much for net neutrality, right? So, this is what a future without net neutrality actually looks like. Now, again, AT&T is pitching this like, well, it's a plan, and HBO Max is paying the plan. It's like, yeah, but again, AT&T, you own HBO Max. So, yeah, HBO Max have their own budget that they get from AT&T, and then HBO Max gives AT&T money for this data cap plan, and then, you know, it just goes into a circle. It's robbing Peter to pay Paul, essentially. Now, full disclosure, I do own stock in AT&T, so I also own stock in Netflix and Disney. Diverse portfolio, always a wise idea. Just because I'm invested does not mean I do not have an issue with this. I think this gives HBO Max in some way, in many ways actually, an unfair advantage. And that might also give Peacock an unfair advantage because there's a lot of people who have Comcast, myself included, when it comes to the internet provider. Interestingly, I don't own stock in Comcast, which is, yeah, I know, right? I'm weird. What can I say? And it'll be a very similar thing. Like, well, they've already announced that if you've got like a cable package with Comcast, you get Peacock for free. But I think there'll be something very similar. It's like, hey, if you're using Peacock and you have internet through Comcast, that won't hurt against your data cap. So please subscribe to us, use it more. I look at these things and it's like at one point, does this become a monopoly? This is completely anti-competitive in many, many ways. So, hey, that's just my thoughts. What about your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to know. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.